you had spent the majority of your focus focusing on your physical form
Mhm.
and neglecting the weave, if you will, of all of the other aspects of your body or of your bodies, we call them. You have your different bodies of the being when we talk about Vedic philosophy. But that being that makes you the you that will go on past the physical form, right? So you didn't really pay much mind to that because you were very focused on the physical, and that physical had gotten hurt.
Mhm.
So when your physical is no longer functioning the way that you wanted your physical to function, what happened to your identity?
It's a fun one. As you said, my soul focus, SOLE, was a singular focus on my body. And what you helped me understand is I needed to have a soul, SOUL, focus on my body. And the reason why that differentiation is important is because I was now looking at it as a whole versus just one. Effectively, it completely shifted my identity of self and broke down the ego, because it, it was in some ways an inflated ego to over to compensate for under ego, and it was also an illusion of an ego that wasn't who I actually am. And so there needed to be a full breakdown. There needed to be, in some ways, like a cascade effect of coming down and rebuild a foundation through authenticity versus false narrative. And when you're building yourself based on a false narrative, false foundation, I mean, any little thing to it can just kind of knock the whole thing down. And that's what a lot of people struggle with, unfortunately, right? That's why people have major emotional reactions to things. It's because it's these swings of, being in alignment, then out of alignment, and then it's like, oh, this is who I'm supposed to be, or this is who I am, but this is who everyone else wants me to be, and this is what I think society wants me to be. But
This is who my family
this is
says I
what
should be.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like it's impossible to figure out. I mean, there's no chance.
Yeah.
And I felt crushed by all of these supposed tos, as you were saying,
Yeah.
instead of building out, oh, this is who I am. And as I understand and explore who I am, I'm going to kind of brick by brick build this solid foundation so that I can show up as I am, who I am, no matter where I am. And it started with, okay, well, I needed to get my physical back because that was the most aware I was. Most beings are in their body.
Hmm.
It's hard not to. It's a very corporal form. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Corporal, is that right? Is that
There
a
you
term?
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
form, corporal. Uh,
Major.
yes, and so it's, yeah. I mean, we like our senses. I mean, it's like everything is very dense and intense here, right? And so it's easy to get stuck in only the body.
Yes.
And so what and when we have that awareness just in the body, doesn't mean we're not experiencing our mental selves, our emotional selves, and our soul selves. But the problem is that when almost 100% of the awareness is all around the body, then those things are just kind of flailing,
Yeah.
and then we
It's like,
don't realize.
hello,
Yes, hello,
hello.
hello. We don't realize the impact that they're having, right? And they are messing with our body because it's attempting to find um, equilibrium, but we're not allowing that to occur because we're not even how can you have equilibrium when you're not even acknowledging 75% of who you are?
And maybe it's not so much that they're messing, they're just attempting to get you to hear them,
Right.
right?
That's
It's like,
exactly.
seriously, I've attempted every way and you are not listening to me.
It's so true.
I'm going to do this now. And eventually you're going to get the memo.
Exactly. And finally, I had to even go to my body to, I had to have a major injury just to tell me to stop, to listen. If now all aspects of me are quote unquote, we'll say it like broken, even though it is not. It was just a way for me to recognize that there's something that needs attention. And in fact, it's all levels of myself that need attention because there's a complete misalignment across the board. And so one of the beautiful, beautiful things you shared with me is that when we experience something in our physical form, it's most oftentimes not just a physical thing. Maybe you had a paper cut. Okay, that's going to happen. You got a little excited opening a piece of mail or something like that. Okay, yeah, that's a body thing, right? But most of these bigger injuries, whether it's illness or like a major injury that we have, something that is whether it's debilitating or chronic or just something that's very impactful on just your entire life, there's a deeper aspect to it, and it could stem from not paying enough attention to the mental aspects of where you're at. Like, what are you thinking? How are you talking to yourself? What framework are you supporting yourself in? Right? Are you being your own best friend or your own worst enemy through your thoughts and how you're approaching it, right? And how are you framing the world around you? And then what does that even look like, right? And are you a victim or are you an inner champion, right?
Exactly.
You know, on top of that, the next layer, right? We have our emotions, right? We're not thinking, for people listening, I'm hitting my head. We're not thinking our feelings. We're deeply like there. We say, "Oh, I feel like it's in my heart," right? And this is a great segue into kind of like soul, right? So we're deeply feeling, which is different than a thought. We can have the emotion, we can think through the emotions to help us understand it better, and then we can embody those emotions and thoughts in different ways, right? And then finally, as that deeper connection into the heart, we have our soul. Like for me, I feel like that's you know where I feel my soul self at the highest. I feel like it's in all aspects of who I am and all around me and within me. But in terms of like, okay, where's I don't want to keep just like you know uh, touching different parts of my like my feet and say, oh, okay, it's well, my soul's there too, but it's just weird. So I just stick with my heart center and just say, this is where I feel my soul. And through this authenticity, then I can breathe all my true soul deep level self into the way that I process my emotions and into the way that I effectively think through and then finally embody who I am. And so when I've created that thread and that alignment, as you beautifully navigated me through that, then I felt that I could really express and build the foundation of who I am at every layer of self.